Welcome to Trudge the Road. We're your hosts. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry, and I am a sober alcoholic.
And Trudge the Road is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, and offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and the nation's capital. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's CARON.org.
And let me say that if Caron would like us to go down to that Bermuda office and do a couple of interviews, stuff like Florida, we'll take Reverend Jack with us.
It's going to be tough.
Because we'll need adult supervision. There's no question about that.
Drag us out of our current place, but we'll definitely... Yeah, I guess consider that.
Okay, we'll do it.
Hey, listen, this is a reflective show this week. It is one where we're going to talk a little bit about your friend who just recently passed away.
Yeah, man. Larry H., dude, was the best friend. You know, it's much deeper than a friend. If it wasn't for Larry, I wouldn't be alive today. Not only sober, but alive. He played that significant of a role in my life, and we've been tight for almost a quarter of a century, you know. And Larry had been sick for the last really for a couple of years, you know. But it's still that, you know, when I finally got the call that he was gone, wow, you know, it just.
And it happens a lot. I mean, you know, someone's going to pass, and you think about it, and it hurts. But then when it finally happens, it's still somewhat surreal.
You know, but the thing is he died sober. You know, he died sober, and the last thing he wanted while he was alive was to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what Larry wanted to do. And I got sober there was a group of us who hung together and have stayed together over the years. And it was Larry, Bobby D, Ed P, Mike T, Ricky S, Milton, and Jack G. And Jack, Ed, Bobby, and now Larry are all dead. You know, but they all died sober. Unfortunately died, you know, it's still kind of as a result, I believe, of their addiction. But they were sober when they died and helped so many people along the way. And they really believed it. Larry was one who believed that absolutely, and taught me this, that we were created to love. That's why we're here. We are created to love, and that the true definition of love is being of ultimate service to others. And that was the way he conducted his life from the second he took his last drink until the day he passed away. It was only about others. What can I do for you? As a matter of fact, he worked in Louisville, Kentucky, St. Stephen's Church in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the centerpiece of the African-American community. 15,000 members, I believe. Beautiful church, and just this incredible outreach program to the community that is second to none. And my hat's off to them. The Reverend Dr. Kevin Cosby is the pastor there, and just a remarkable man. But that's where Larry worked. You know, he worked there within his community, doing what he could to help folks, and he did it every single day, and he never asked for anything in return. He didn't need to. That serenity, that peace of mind, that joy and happiness that we find by working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous came true. There's promises. It's that those 12 principles of rational behavior that we learned together. You know, and that was the beauty of it, because we grew together, you know. And as I was telling you off mic, Larry always knew a guy,
right,
you know.
Right.
It was great. If you needed a new suit, Larry knew a guy, you know. If your car was on the fritz, Larry knew a guy. He knew a guy for everything. And when it came down to me accepting the spiritual principles of recovery, it was rather difficult, because the God of my understanding was not a very friendly guy. You know, he was a mean God. He was a judging God. He was a God just waiting for me to make one more mistake so I could do, you know, a lot more time in purgatory, if you will. And it was really difficult to try to bring that as a manner of love into my life. And Larry, he had a guy, his God of joy, of understanding, of a God whose will for you was that of any father. There were no conditions, you know. I love you no matter what you did, no matter what you're ever going to do. My love for you is unconditional. I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want joy in your life, you know. And that was the God that Larry had. And I remember him saying, "Why don't you just let you borrow my God here, you know, and you can give yours a little rest." And that was almost a quarter of a century ago, where I borrowed him for that day, and I've never let him go.
Did you tell him that you had this judgmental God? And he said, "Hey, wait a second. I know a God."
Yeah, pretty much that way. That was pretty much Larry. It was. I'll give you another example of Larry. It just absolutely blew me away. When I got to the healing place, I knew enough Spanish to speak enough Spanish to buy drugs in Chicago. But after I was there a couple of months, I was speaking real well because there were a number of people, not just from Mexico, but from Central America,
Sure.
because of Churchill Downs, a horse track. And we had to contract the healing place, and these guys just, their level of English was almost none, so I was kind of the communication tool, if you will, when they got there. You can imagine how frightened they were. You can imagine how frightened you'd be if you were in this terrible situation due to drugs and alcohol in a country where, they didn't understand
Sure.
you, and I was doing my best to understand them, but smooth, that's what we used to call Larry. He would say, you're not really hearing them. And I was like, what do you mean? Why are you telling me that? You don't understand a word of Spanish. He goes, you're not, man. You're not really hearing what they need. And I could just never really figure that out. Now, when it comes to the language of Spanish, I'm illiterate, can't read it or write it, so there was that obstacle, obviously. And he kind of used that as a tool to get me to try to find out, or himself as far as that goes, a place where we could get these guys so that we could give them the elements really necessary for them to make a recovery. And that's complete communication. Now, this is way before the old interweb. You couldn't just Google it. We had to do a little research. And in Louisville, Kentucky, and we found a Spanish-speaking group, and it was way out in the south end of Louisville. And I'll tell you, when we were homeless down there, we could get anywhere on the bus, bro. Get us on a bus, we'll get there.
Right.
And we gathered these guys up. And he kept telling me, Larry, that this is going to be amazing. Watch it, because they're going to get what they're asking for here. And what are they asking for? I never could figure that out, So we get on the bus. We make this long trip out to Fern Creek, I believe is called the neighborhood. And there's a walk involved, and we're trudging the road. These guys get all Spanish speaking. I remember one guy's from Ecuador, a couple from Mexico, an interesting Guatemala, interesting sociology there. And we got to this meeting. And Larry said, "You're going to see it. Watch it." And it was like the prodigal son. It was, all of a sudden, there they are, my people. The culture was there. The understanding was there. And both sides just came alive as they saw each other. Oh, my God, there you are. There you are. Welcome home. Welcome home. And I felt this, and I saw this, and there were tears. And they were back, and they were with their people, and I couldn't understand because they were talking so fast.
Right.
And it was just such absolute joy. But see, Larry could see that. Larry could hear that they needed more. I couldn't hear that, even speaking the language. But Larry could hear that, And we took him there, and even before we got there, he said, "Watch their faces when they walk in. Experience this. This is a spiritual experience." And it certainly was, And that's the type of guy Larry Holden was, man. Just completely thinking about others from the day he stopped drinking and using drugs till the day he passed away just a few days ago. And I was there, man. And what an experience. The St. Stephen's Church provided for him a funeral that was tremendous. And what an experience for me. To be able to get up in this church in front of I don't know how many people, and frankly, I believe I was the only white guy there, maybe just a couple, in their culture, the African American culture, where I got sober, and to experience that kind of love, to experience that joy out loud, just the way Larry loved it, just brought me such peace. And I told you it was just such a remarkable experience. One of the best things about it, and if you're familiar with Louisville, Kentucky, downtown Louisville is just absolutely beautiful. And that's where I was homeless, Now, just by coincidence, because, when Larry passed, I had to make arrangements real quick.
Sure.
And I just went online to one of the agencies there. And I had a chance to book at the Galt House. And people may know the Galt House, especially if you're a friend of the Derby. Beautiful place. Gorgeous, right downtown. But, according to this website, it was $10 more than the Holiday Inn. So what the heck, let's go. It's really nice. And a couple of crazy things happened. This, I really believe, has to do with Larry, is that when I got to the Galt House, and I promise you, I'm not exaggerating this at all, the International Convention, not the National Convention, the International Convention of Blind People was taking place. There were 2,500 blind people and me,
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no. No. No pun intended is right. And what a remarkable experience, and how these folks, because they needed help, obviously, directions. The Galt House is hard to get around when you can see, no less when you're blind, and like getting on the elevator, and they'd have to ask, could you please punch that floor, or, let me know when we're on the third or on the second. I don't know how they knew I could see, but it was to be part of their culture and get sucked into this was just absolutely amazing. And to see, what it's like firsthand to have a handicap of that nature and overcome it. You see, we have a handicap too. Alcoholism and drug addiction is a serious, serious handicap. And we have a way to overcome it. And I'm watching these people in their daily struggle, and then I'm watching our people in our daily struggle. Now, here's the remarkable thing, is I'm staying on the 24th floor of the Galt Hotel, and I look down the window, and it looks right down onto Market Street in Louisville, Kentucky. And when I was homeless, I did what I called the Market Street March. And I would just walk up and down Market Street, trying to figure it out, trying to plan a way, trying to figure out what day this thing was all going to end and I was going to be okay.
Right.
When it was all going to go away, when I was going to live in those apartments, when I was going to go over to the Galt House. And that's what amazed me the most. Not so that I have come this far, but I'm sitting on the 24th floor looking down on the street that I was homeless on, that I panhandled on, that I did other bad things on. And I'm sitting there now in this hotel room looking down at how did that happen? How did that happen? That's not possible. It's just not possible. If there is ever anything that's a proof of a miracle, it was the fact that I was sitting down there looking at that. And I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for this wonderful person named Larry. It just would have never happened. And it was just surreal. It was almost as if it wasn't happening, that if I was detached from it a little bit, from the outside looking in, a remarkable experience. And I'm just absolutely overwhelmed that I am where I am today. And it's not that I'm anywhere important. I'm not. It's not that I've been financially greatly successful. I have not been. It's the fact that I'm alive. As a matter of fact, my sponsor, Dr. B, who may be listening, hi, Dr. B, he told me the only thing I've done really, really well in AA is show up. That's it. He said, that's the only thing you've done really good. And that's the ticket. Show up. Come to where we understand your pain. And that's so significant. It's easy for our culture to see and understand and appreciate the pain we've caused, and it certainly exists. But few of us really understand the pain that we experience. In the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's not that we have knowledge of it or akin to it. We understand it. We understand your pain, and we have a way to solve it. A 12-step way, 12 principles of rational behavior that will bring you what you're looking for, peace of mind. I'll use you for an example.
Me?
Yeah, for those last even few years of using, it wasn't about a party. There was no party left. There was no excitement. There was no more thrill. You were just trying to buy a peace of mind. Peace of mind. Just a minute where that ocean wasn't rolling in your head or that forest fire wasn't on. Just that minute where you could breathe, looking for that peace of mind. It's not going to change in the rooms of AA. We're going to provide it. We just do it a different way. It's as simple as that. We just do it a different way. It doesn't have to change. We understand your pain, and we're going to take you to where you were looking. Happy, joyous, and free. It's an Alcoholics Anonymous, and if you've ever wondered how that could possibly work, you're listening to it. If you've ever said, I'm not going to believe in a miracle until I witness one, you're listening to one. I am one. I just gave you proof, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to God as I choose to understand him, for the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and of course, from all of my dear, dear friends, like Larry, who even though he's left the earth, I still know that he's an active part of my recovering life, and will maintain that. So I'm grateful. Grateful to you too, Rich.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's some powerful stuff there. And the way you got started was step one, which we're going to talk about here coming up in just a few minutes. Also, Jerry, you're going to be out at Pensy Paul. We want to give some details on that coming up. You're going to be speaking.
On the road, man.
Very excited about that. We do have a Facebook page that we just put up. It is Trudge the Road Radio. You just put that in the search engine. And Trudge the Road is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment. Caron specializes in men's and women's services, as well as young adult males and females, plus a relapse program and outpatient services. If you're concerned about yourself or a loved one, call 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's CARON.org. Trudge the Road continues next.
You're listening to Trudge the Road. Coming up next, Rich and Jerry discuss the first step to getting sober. It's on the way next on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. This is Jerry from Trudge the Road, and I would like to invite you to join myself and Rich at this year's Long Island Summerfest in Mount Sinai, New York. It's going to be August 11th from 2 to 9 p.m., and you can get all the details at Caron.org. That's Caron.org. And also, I'm very honored, the Friday night speaker at this year's Pensipah in State College, PA, the Pennsylvania Conference of Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's the 24th through the 26th of August. It is going to be a great convention. For more information, go to our Facebook page, search Trudge the Road Radio. Thank you so very much. God bless and keep trudging the road.
Welcome back to Trudge the Road. We're your hosts. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry, and I am a sober alcoholic.
And Trudge the Road is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron, a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in good old PA, Florida, and Texas, with offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, which is Caron.org. That's Caron.org. In our last segment, we talked a little bit about the passing of your friend Larry, who you had gotten sober with him.
Right.
And he had recently passed away. Did Larry get sober first, or did you get sober?
Larry was sober about 8 months longer than I.
And so for 8 months, was he saying, "Hey, Jerry, really, you got to come over here. You got to."
He would, when I would bump into him when I was on the street, he was clean and sober, so I kind of avoided him,
As we tend to do.
I was still trying to treat my disease myself, and if you think about it, and this is right out of our textbook, The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, some of the methods that we have tried, drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wine, taking a long trip, swearing off forever with or without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms, sanitariums, accepting a voluntary commitment to asylums. We could increase this list ad infinitum, over and over again, all the ways that we have tried to stop or to moderate our drinking. And all of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time, right out of our text here, to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. That's where it took us. I had a mind that would not work and a body that would not die.
My grandfather used to say that as long as you drank beer, you'd never be an alcoholic.
A lot of people said that.
That was his big saying, and he drank a lot of beer. Never came to the conclusion that it had affected his life, and it did affect his life. He unfortunately did pass away without ever realizing the happy, joyous, and free that we feel here today. He never admitted that he was powerless over his alcohol, and therefore, it did do damage to him as the years went by.
There is such a thing as a big drinker, as a large drinker who's not an alcoholic, who can stop or moderate and not have any problem. We can't. We can't. We can't do life sober. We get irritable, we get discontentment, we get bored, we get angry, we get afraid. All of these issues that are the pathology of the disease rear their ugly head, and that's why we drink. We don't drink for reasons of conviviality any longer. We're taking medicine.
So what was it that brought you to that point where you said, I'm ready to accept step number one, that I am powerless?
This is so awful to admit. I had to lose absolutely, positively everything. There was nothing left. I had no family. I had no car. I had no job. I had no career. I had no house. I had nowhere to go. I had absolutely nothing. This is where Larry Holden pops in again, because he said, the only thing you've got, pal, is God. You've got nothing else. And literally that was true. I had a couple of shirts and some socks, and that was it. Nothing else in this God thing. And that's when he said, you can borrow mine. He's been real helpful to me. And I did. I just took that concept that he had, if you will. It was as God as Larry chose to understand him. It was real simple. His God, as I said in the last segment, was joy and love and happiness and peace and contentment. And that wasn't the God that I was brought up with. And I'm not dissing that religion whatsoever, but, even when I was coming up, they didn't even have the service in English. It was in Latin. It was very hard to understand. And the God that I accepted was just a real mean God. Whether or not that was given to me or not, I'm really not sure. My own element of fear and exaggerated emotions could have created that on its own.
Well, you hear it a lot. I mean, people come in, and that's one sticking point with a lot of people when they come into AA and NA, is that they just can't get their arms around the God thing.
Yeah, and that's, that there is no God thing about this. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the whole program is a spiritual program. Every aspect of it. It's all spiritual. The steps with those are 12 principles to rational behavior. That's what they are, and that's what we need, is that good orderly direction in our lives so that we can communicate on a healthy level within society and not have it threaten us, always emotionally threatening us. And that fear, even in my own sobriety after all these years, will still sometimes, rear its ugly head. Am I going to have enough money? Can I retire? All of those different things will hit me, and they'll exaggerate themselves. When the truth is, the promises in my life have come true. And 95% of the time, things like economic insecurity, I'm not afraid of. I'm not. Fear of people, I'm not. Fear of places, I'm not. Those things that were just absolutely overwhelming. That irrational fear that we talk about, it's in the soul of the alcoholic. You're terrified, and you don't know what you're afraid of. You remember, afraid of the mail, petrified when the phone ring, jump out of your skin.
Sure.
Because something awful is going to be on the other end, always playing out that worst case scenario, the pathology of the disease. But when you're living rationally, when you're behaving rationally, issues of this nature will bring themselves to somewhat of a conclusion because you get better. And that's the beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous. The work that you put in it in doing the 12 steps will do miraculous things to the way that you behave and to the way that you see things and the way that you foresee things. What God's role in it is most significant. For example, he'll replace that fear with courage. And I think that needs a little bit of definition too, because courage doesn't mean lack of fear. Courage means walking through something that really scares you, and that's going to present itself within your recovery, because getting better hurts a little bit. There's a little bit of fear involved, and that's why we have got sponsors, or as Dr. Joe likes to call them, seeing eye dogs,
Right.
And it's really true, because in that early part of recovery, and especially those last days of drinking, you can't see what's right in front of your face. You just don't know what to do. Everything is emotional. You're still basing all of your decisions on how you feel. And how do you feel at that moment? You're scared. You're petrified. You don't know what's going to happen. You need to know. You need to do something. You need to stop feeling that way. That's alcoholism. Now, if you've got a guide, to take you down the road, your chances are going to be a whole lot more successful in this journey. And that sponsor, especially in those early days, look at him as a seeing eye dog, because that is what you need. Reflective of the experience I just had at the Galt House Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky. When I'm there for Larry's funeral, the International Convention of Blind People, 2,500 blind folks and Jer, and I watched them trudge their road and the similarities, how they faced everyday difficulties and just maneuvering from point A to point B. We face difficulties in our life every day too. They have a program that helps them get along. We have a program that helps us get along. There's really not a lot of difference, and I watched these folks be able to lead really relatively normal lives when they've got this seeing eye dog. These dogs were absolutely amazing. They knew when to stop. They knew when to hold back. They knew when to turn left, right. It was incredible. And that's that sponsor in our life. And if it wasn't for Dr. B, and I don't have to tell you this, if I wouldn't have had that seeing eye dog basically telling me when to get up, brush my teeth, go to work, and things of that nature, I wouldn't have made it, because I just didn't have any living skills whatsoever. I'd been living on my wits. I'd been letting my feelings direct my behavior, and the consequences were just drastic. And as we've said before, your feelings ain't good. They're not bad. They're not moral. They're not immoral. They're just there. They're just there. But I'd wake up every morning and Mr. Fear would say hello, and I would react. And it's not necessarily different today. Can I give you an example?
Please do.
Right. I woke up, this is embarrassing. I woke up the other morning real early, and the first thing I thought about was my job, And then I thought, oh my God, my job, my company that's being sucked up by another company that maybe it doesn't have the greatest reputation. I thought, oh God, that's going to be it. They'll can me. I'll be done. I've got 6 months maybe. Okay, they'll fire me. in 6 months in, and how maybe can I get unemployment? How long am I able to live on my sick? Should I cash in the 401 here? That's only going to last a year. I'll maybe make it a year and a half. I can't be. I'm not going to be homeless again. I'll just have to kill myself. Here, I've been awake 30 seconds and I've already got a gun to my head. That's alcoholism saying, "Morning, Jer."
Well, it's funny because I think we've had the same dream. Sometime within the last week.
And I'll bet that you two have a little blue book you keep there on the by the bed, and I pulled that out and read my daily reflection, and all of a sudden came back and realized I don't need to worry about issues of that nature. I'm turning my life and my actions over to a care much more powerful than myself to direct me on my human journey and to take care of those big issues that are so overwhelming. And he does, and I have proof of it, obviously just by the fact that I'm here today, happy and healthy.
And I think one of the things that you also talked about earlier was our own plan. We have our own definition of how we're going to get there, and we try. And how many times were you out there, as I was out there, and thought, okay, I know how I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do it. And for those of you listening for the first time, I'm a drug addict, so I would always think, okay, well, I'm just going to score one more time. When I'm done with this, and I think it goes to anybody who maybe is not an alcoholic, maybe you're a family member, maybe you smoke cigarettes. You always think, I'm going to smoke this last pack, and then that's going to be it until you get to the end. And then suddenly that anxiety starts building up again, and boom, you run out and you get another pack. Or in my case, I ran out and got some more drugs. Okay, this time, this is how I'm going to do it. And my plan never worked. It went on for weeks. It went on for months. It went on for years before I finally turned my will over because I just couldn't do it right. How many times did I walk that same path and run into that same wall and never decided to take another road? It wasn't until I finally took that different road that I found the happy, joyous, and free feeling that I have today.
No, well, and good for you, but it is that smacking up against the wall several times real hard and busting your face up real good. And the damage that we do along the way to people who are so significantly involved with this. And I've done my best to make amends. I still have amends to make, and some of them I won't be able to, but I'm willing, to kind of restore, if I could, some credibility in my corner, to not say that I'm sorry, but to say I was wrong, and I would like to do what I can to amend this behavior. Would make me feel great, and again, that willingness that the program gives me to do that, when even it's not possible, is tremendous today.
Well, I'll tell you, coming up, we're going to talk about when I finally decided to take a different path, as today I'm celebrating my 11th anniversary.
Yay! Congratulations, man.
Of sobriety. It was 11 years ago today, back in 2001, that I finally took a different path and found myself in the rooms of NA, which changed my life for the better. This is Trudge the Road, and Trudge the Road is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment. Caron specializes in men's and women's services, as well as young adult males and females, plus a relapse program and outpatient services. If you're concerned about yourself or a loved one, call 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's CARON.org. Coming up, more on Trudge the Road.
You're listening to Trudge the Road. Coming up next, Rich is celebrating an anniversary, 11 years of clean time, and he tells us about how that old life ended and how the new one began. It's coming up next on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
Welcome back to Trudge the Road. We are your hosts. I am Rich, a recovered drug addict.
I am a sober alcoholic. Call me Jer.
And Trudge the Road is sponsored by Caron Treatment.
Me. You get to read that thing every time. I want to read it one time. I love those folks. Thank you so much. Trudge the Road, sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, and Texas. Offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and the nation's capital. You can reach them by calling 800-854-6023 or go to their website, which is caron.org. That's CARON.org. And we thank them for sponsoring Trudge the Road.
We definitely do. And Jerry, if you would, please tell everybody why we do this show.
This show is dedicated to folks who suffer from the disease of addiction to drugs and alcohol. And every bit as important, family and friends. Your suffering is tremendous, probably to a level you're not even aware of. Hopefully, we can bring you some answers to the many questions that you have, and our prayer is that we can get some solutions to this dilemma.
We got a couple of things that we want to talk about this week in addition to our topics. One is that we have a Facebook page now, which is just type in a search engine, Trudge the Road Radio. Go there and like us. Isn't that what the kids say? Just like us.
Oh, man, come on.
We also have recoveryforlifechannel.com, a website where you can find our emails on there, and you can send us an email. We take show suggestions or things that maybe you're thinking about, or maybe you just want to reach out and talk to us. That's recoveryforlifechannel.com. You could reach Jerry, myself, Dr. Jill, or Matt, the producer. Now, you're going to be speaking coming up at a pretty big convention in Pennsylvania.
It is. I'm really excited and just totally honored to be the Friday night speaker, August 24th, at Pensipaw. That's the Pennsylvania State Conference of Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll be traveling to State College, PA, and this is going to be a huge convention. It's their 24th, I believe. So
and you're a Friday night speaker.
I'm the start-off speaker. It's at the Penn Stater Conference Center Hotel. If you go online and just do Pensipaw, PENSCYPAA, and bang, it'll all pop up.
All right. We'll put that on the website. We'll also put it on the Facebook page so that folks can easily access that. It's a pretty big convention.
It's a huge convention. It's going to be great speakers, round-the-clock marathon meetings, dances, banquet, the whole 9 yards.
Are you going to dance?
You know I am, baby.
All right. Get out there.
I'm a little monkey. I mean,
cut a rug.
I'm great, man. Just a little Fred Astaire. I could be on Dancing with the Stars. I really could. It's that good.
Okay, anyways, we're rolling on here. Listen, it was 11 years ago today that my life of substance came to an end, and then I decided that I wanted to be free of the said substances, and I have been, and I'm very excited about this, as I am every time I celebrate an anniversary. But as you've said before, Jerry, it's not how far along it's been since I last did a line. It's how close I am to the next one.
Exactly.
So I always try to bear that in mind in everyday situations. But it happened in a little town in Prescott, Arizona, is where I finally came to sobriety. I was running a little hotel there, which will remain nameless.
Yes, let's do that.
And it was part of my whole clean thing. As I was trying to get clean, a friend of mine owned the hotel, and she said, well, come up and stay with me. You can run this place, and you can rid it of all the tweakers that are inhabiting it at the time. And I thought...
Tell us all real quick what a tweaker is.
A tweaker is someone who's strung out on crystal meth.
Okay.
Which I was
yes.
at the time. And I was strung out on crystal meth for quite a number of years. Matter of fact, I spent the entire 90s. On and off, took a couple of years off here and there, but for the most part, that entire decade is consumed with, I don't really remember a lot of it.
I understand.
But I agreed to do it. I thought, well, this will be good for me. I'll play the other side of things. This is where I'm not using, I'm stopping people from using. And I moved there with my girlfriend at the time, and I was probably good for maybe 30 days. Before I found out the guy in room 3
was selling the stuff.
Was selling the stuff.
Oh, what a coinky-dink.
And, of course, we had a little side deal going on, and what a hypocrite I was. Boy, I was busting people left and right in these rooms, but I left the guy in 3 alone because, well, the guy in 3 was satisfying my cravings and my need for crystal meth. And I carried this charade on for a good 6 months before I finally got caught.
You're good, man. 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Wow.
There were times when I would actually get high and I would lay in bed for 8 straight hours and never sleep just to pretend that I was still sober.
Man.
And
go the extra mile, baby.
Well, I'll tell you something. The difficult part was that my girlfriend, she was trying to come off as well, and she was doing a fantastic job of it. So I was consumed with guilt that I was doing it, but that was not enough to stop me. It wasn't until she caught me. Finally, in one of the rooms I had vacated and held for my own, where I was doing all my little drug activities, that she finally said, you know what, you got to make a choice. You're going to make a choice. You're either going to continue this behavior or you're not, but I'm leaving. And that was the wake-up call that I needed at the time. We've since broke up. I've remarried a cool chick. Well, that's terrible to say, because she really was a good girl, and I really think she was put into my life for that reason, because we did use together. Her brother was my dealer. He was one very significant in me starting back up again and running for another 3 years. But she was put into my life, I think, for that reason, to get sober, because without her and pulling that linchpin, I don't know that I would have been able to come to a screeching halt, or at least open my eyes enough to take the different path to find myself in a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous.
A little willingness.
It was, and I did get sober. She unfortunately did not, as the years went by, and that was pretty much what ended our relationship, probably about 7-8 years ago.
Right.
But to this day, I'm feeling much, much better. I'm not going to get too deep with the graphics of the story, but I will tell you this, that my life is greater today and more joyous and more happy. I am probably one of the happiest people when I wake up in the morning. Unlike a lot of people who wake up grumpy, I'm not that guy. I am the guy that, and my wife is not, she's one of those people that when, she doesn't have her coffee, it's don't even talk to me, don't look to me. And I am completely the opposite. Therefore, I'm somewhat annoying in the relationship.
Little Mr. Sunshine.
But I attribute all of that and my everyday waking up and my just glad to be here to Narcotics Anonymous and the people that I've connected with through the years that have helped me stay on this path of sobriety. And Jerry, I mean, you and I have a meeting pretty much every day. They say you only need another person for a meeting. And you and I talk about sobriety and staying clean pretty much every day of our lives.
And that's great. That's absolutely great. Let me ask you this question here. Now, that last day in the motel room there in Prescott, Arizona, was the day that it was over, the horrible feeling, the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization that the book refers to. Do you consider yourself having some pretty bad luck that day, I assume? Hmm?
Well, yeah, that I got caught.
Yeah, see, there you go. Here, now, of course, now it's story time from Uncle Jerry.
Oh, please do.
Good luck, bad luck, who knows? I'm going to throw this on you. It's very short. It's a Chinese parable. See if it's not applicable, okay? There's this Chinese farmer, you see, and one day his horse runs away. And the neighbors come over and go, "Oh, my God, what bad luck, you've lost your horse." And the Chinese farmer goes, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" Okay, the next day, the horse comes back, brings 10 horses with him. Oh, the neighbors come over, "Oh, my God, what good luck, you've got all these horses." And the farmer responds the same way, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" Later that day, his son's out trying to break the horses to use on the farm. Horse throws him. Young man breaks his arm and breaks his leg. Oh, the neighbors come over. "What bad luck, you've lost your right-hand man. How you going to farm? This is horrible." And again he responds, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" Well, the next day, war breaks out between the two villages. All the able young men have to go fight. Son can't go, got a broken arm, broken leg. Neighbors come over and go, "Oh, my goodness, what good luck. You didn't have to go fight." And he responds the same way, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" Now, that last day of yours sitting in that nasty hotel with a mind that would not work and a body that would not die, you were having some really bad luck. But the reality, the truth of it was the luckiest day of your life. See, good luck, bad luck, who knows? That's the day you came to us, to Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, having this horrible luck, the worst day of your life, worst luck of your life, and you show up here. And the reality was, it was the luckiest day of your life. Good luck, bad luck, who knows? So if you're going through some stuff right now and you're in the rooms of recovery and it seems like it's going to be awful and you're having some really bad luck, think about that a moment. Are you? Good luck, bad luck, who knows? Because
it was the silver lining in my life that day when I finally got caught, because everything changed for me that day. And, that was the first time that it ever stuck with me, because, I had been down that road of, I'm going to get sober. I was clean 2 years while I was in California, came back to Phoenix. Next thing you know, I was back at it again. Yeah. And, that was the time that it really stuck for me. And my life has gotten so much better. And you know what my life is today.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to what my life was then. You don't know what my life was then, although you do know what my life was then.
Oh, yes. We were all there. And we wouldn't wish that upon anybody. And really, it takes another addict or an alcoholic to understand that kind of pain, to understand it. to comprehend. It's easy to see the pain we cause, and we certainly accept responsibility for it. But if you don't have this disease, it's very difficult to understand the pain that we suffer. So what is the problem? Is it drugs and alcohol? No, it's not. And as a matter of fact, in the text, and when I read this, I was really quite shocked to find out that selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our problems. That's our problem. Selfishness and self-centeredness, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows, and they retaliate. Now, the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though usually doesn't think so. And above everything, we alcoholics must rid this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. Now, this is extremely important. This is right in the text. It doesn't say it's going to give us a bad day if we don't get rid of this selfishness and self-centeredness. It doesn't say it's going to wreck our bank account. Die. It will kill us. So how do we get rid of this selfishness and self-centeredness? God makes that possible, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Now, moral and philosophical convictions galore. I mean, we all had them, and they just didn't work. It's this intervention of a power greater than ourselves, finding out that, that's our dilemma. We have no power by which we could live. We've tried so hard on our own, and with the best of intentions in most times, and it just didn't work out. We have to discover a new power that will rid us of that selfishness and self-centeredness, so all of that fear, that self-delusion, that self-pity, that self-seeking, the stuff that just ruins every relationship we have, will rid itself from our personalities. That's the root of our problems, and that is the solution that we offer here by doing the 12 steps, again, which is a principle of rational behavior.
And this is Trudge the Road. It is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment. Caron specializes in men's and women's services, as well as young adult males and females, plus a relapse program and outpatient services. If you're concerned about yourself or a loved one, call 1-800-854-6023 or go to their website, caron.org. That's CARON.org. Coming up, Trudge the Road continues.
You're listening to Trudge the Road. Coming up next, Rich and Jerry discuss relapsing and the relapse before the relapse. It's up next on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
Welcome back to Trudge the Road. We're your hosts. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry, and I'm a sober alcoholic.
And Trudge the Road is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron, a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, and Texas, and offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, and the nation's capital. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023. You can go to their website, caron.org. That's CARON.org. Jerry, tell everybody why we're here.
This program is dedicated to folks who suffer from the disease of addiction, people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol. And every bit as important, family and friends, you suffer immensely. You probably don't even realize how bad. But we're here to hopefully answer some of the many questions that we know you have, and ultimately our goal is to provide some solutions. And speaking of Caron, thanks very much. They had Rich and I, we traveled to Wernersville, Pennsylvania, to their treatment facility there for an alumni party, and we just had an absolute blast. And hi, everybody at Caron, and thank you for having us. It was a great time.
Yeah, we did have a great time. Met some very, very cool people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
While we were there. We were talking about me and 11 years of clean time. In the last segment, it was 11 years ago today that I got sober, got clean. And it was not without this journey, these last 11 years, without temptation and without
difficulty dealing with life on life's terms.
Exactly. But through the principles that were given to me and the steps, I've been able to stay clean, and it's been a wonderful thing. And my life today is so much better. And it is because of NA and AA as well, because I've mentioned to you before, when I first got into this thing, NA meetings were very difficult for me. Folks were talking about drugs. And for me, anytime somebody was talking about drugs, it was a trigger. I was very, very sensitive at the time. So I started going to AA meetings so I could start learning about the 12 steps before I was comfortable enough to get to the NA meetings.
Terrific. You know, do whatever it takes, and find where you're comfortable. I'm a real alcoholic, as the big book of AA describes. There's no question about that. I'm also a baby boomer. And as you know, our culture took a lot of drugs. And in my case, this is the honest truth, drugs were a hobby I had while I was drinking,
Right.
you know. And if you look at what my favorite was, which was cocaine, I did cocaine so I could drink more, you know, and so I could be more clever and more intelligent while I was drinking. The lies and the assumptions we have, of course, the consequences of the drug.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I would always convince myself, at least in the later years, as our professions are radio, that the more times that I got high, the more creative, the more funny, the more insightful I became. And I would be able to stay up for long periods of time and really, really work on this stuff.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think I had like 200 projects going at one time, and I could never focus on one. But that's difficult, you know, and I had suffered from the relapse for many, many years, all the way going back to the early 80s. I would get clean for a couple of years, and I would relapse. I get clean for 6 months. The time when I would relapse most is when I was feeling really good. So if I had that time in my head, you know, I had that plan, I was going to quit, and this is how I was going to go about doing it. As a matter of fact, I had mentioned to you that I drank pretty much through the 80s, and my plan came to fruition when I found drugs. And that made me stop drinking. But then I could not quit the drugs, and my plan always failed. It wasn't until I found myself in these meetings when I was able to finally apply the steps and get a good long run, which now is 11 years.
And we're proud of you, and congratulations. The thing about, we're going to find which drug, the disease of addiction is the disease of addiction. You're going to find which drug works the best for you, which one solves that problem, which one goes and fills that hole in the soul, which one takes away that fear. For me, it was alcohol, remains alcohol. For you, it was drugs. It doesn't make any difference. The disease is the disease, and the solution is the same. Dr. Bob's famous 6 words, it sums it up. Trust God, clean house, help others. That's how we get sober. That's how we stay sober. And the reciprocation we get, happy, joyous, and free. And that's what we were looking for within the bottle, or within the pill, or within the methamphetamine, the cocaine, whatever. We were looking for happy, joyous, and free. That's what we wanted. You know, people who are not addicted to alcohol and drugs don't drink for that reason. They drink for reasons of conviviality. I witnessed just the other day, I was traveling. I was in an airport and stuck, and I was watching us, looking right in the bar, and people were sitting in there, and you know what they were doing in there? They were talking, you know, and it just you know, to me, if I'm going to be in there, it's for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to drink, you know, because I believe I am a machine that is built to do so. You talk about relapse. I was absolutely convinced years ago that the Outer Banks of North Carolina got me drunk.
How's that?
Well, I was living in a small town in North Carolina, and my in-laws at the time had a cottage down in the Outer Banks, which we could use. It was real cool. Mr. and Mrs. Dickens, God love you. And every time I would end up down at this, I would relapse, you know. And I went to the extent of, when driving down there, it's down 158. You may know that if you know the roads of Carolina down towards the Outer Banks. You're going to pass through a number of little towns, Jackson and Elizabethtown, I can't remember them all, but mostly farming communities, but each one had that state ABC store right on Main Street, you know. And I was so convinced that was going to make me drink. If I saw that store, I would drive miles out of the way not to drive in front of that store, not realizing the whole time I'm trying to drive around this store, what am I thinking about? All I'm thinking about is alcohol, taking a drink, trying to avoid it, trying to do this, doing everything I can except asking for help, trying to do it Jerry's way. And then we would eventually get to the Outer Banks, and boom, I would drink, not realizing that my brain got to the liquor store in the Outer Banks a day and a half before my body did with the money. It was as simple as that, you know. And it was always that, making those excuses. I'd tell Donna, I got to go to the store. Your mother needs cigarettes. And she'd go, well, my mother doesn't smoke. Well, you know, Well, she needs bullets. I don't know. I got to go. I'll be back. And sure enough, I'd go. And it was inevitably the same thing. Inevitably, I would get a pint, because I wasn't going to get drunk. I was just going to take the edge off, enjoy the ocean a little bit more, Well, you'd get home with that pint, and 25 minutes later, who needs something from the cleaners, are you out of anything, so I could, make that trip to the liquor store. But again, I'd still buy one pint. Thinking, I'm just going to buy one more pint instead of going one time and buying the half gallon, which I ended up drinking. That's the insanity, the lies that we're telling ourselves that we're absolutely believing.
But you were relapsing before you were relapsing.
Yeah,
and you've said it before. Your relapse starts in your
mind.
mind.
Relapse, and people think relapse begins with the drink. Au contraire, monsieur. That's where the relapse ends. We'll use Jer here as an example. I'm on the bus. I'm going to work. I got a job. I'm trying to stay sober. And we drive by the liquor store. And just for that one brief second, I go, maybe if I just watched it. You just relapsed. You just relapsed, And that thought kind of mingles in your head, and I'm coming home on the bus that afternoon, I drive by the liquor store again, and I think, if maybe it's not that bad, I could control it this time. I'm sorry, you have relapsed, and you go to work the next day, and you drive by on the bus, and you say, just the weekend. I'll just do it for the weekend. Nobody will know. And you come home, and you stop, you get off the bus, you go in the liquor store, and you buy it, and you take it home, and you drink it. That relapse started that way 2 days ago there when you thought, maybe this time I can handle it. That's what is so important about a couple of things. One is going to a meeting every day. The other is to have a sponsor. It's amazing how we can almost see it in your eyes when you're about to, go down the wrong road. That's why we got a sponsor. A sponsor is a guide. If we were to go to Africa, you'd want to get a guide, somebody who's been there before so you wouldn't get lost, maybe go off on the wrong trail and some giant lion come and eat you. You wouldn't want that to happen. Your chances are it's not going to if you've got a guide. Well, life on life's terms for us is uncharted territory. We've never done it. We've never done it. We need a seeing eye dog. We are blind to what's right in front of us, and that's a sponsor to guide us along the way so that we don't get off on the wrong trail and end up getting eaten by that lion, which in our case is taking a drink of alcohol or taking some drugs. And it's going to be diminished immensely, the chances of that happening if you're going to AA or NA on a daily basis. Go to it till you love it. You're going to love it. I promise you that. And have that sponsor. Have that seeing eye dog to help you along your journey, especially in the beginning. You can't do it alone. And the beauty of it is we want to help. That's how we stay sober. We can't keep it unless we give it back, y'all. So just say, help me. Come into the rooms of AA, help me. And we will.
And that's a great point, Jerry. And, you and I, we talk every day. And every day we have a meeting. Because as they say, you only need one other person to have a meeting. Well, if you don't have one other person or you can't make it to a meeting, you can go to our YouTube site. We have that as well. Just go to youtube.com/Trudge the Road Radio, or just type it in the search engine. We've got all our past shows up there, and it's a chance to sit down and listen and catch a meeting via the computer.
Absolutely. And go to our website, recoveryforlifechannel.com. Communicate with us. Send me an email. Chat with us. We'll get back to you. Matt, the producer over there, he's got all kinds of great ideas.
Absolutely. And Facebook. We have a Facebook page now. Go to Trudge the Road Radio. Just type that in the search engine, and boom, it's there. One thing we want to mention here before we go is Pensy Paw. That is coming up. Jerry, you're going to be speaking. That's a Friday night.
I'm traveling to State College, Pennsylvania, Friday, August the 24th. I'm speaking. That's a 3-day convention, and they've got it all. Banquets, speakers, workshops, dances, marathon meetings. It's going to be tremendous. Pensy Paw, PENNSCYPAA. It's their 24th convention. We're real proud of them, and I am 100% honored. Thank you very much for choosing me to lead it off Friday night speaking.
And if you've never seen Jerry speak, do so.
You got to see it, man. It's not, you can't hear it, it's okay, but you got to see it.
You got to see it so you can feel it.
Amen.
In your soul. That's pretty much
brother.
how it goes down. Hey, Trudge the Road, sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment. Caron specializes in men's and women's services, as well as young adult males and females, plus a relapse program and outpatient services. If you're concerned about yourself or a loved one, Call 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's CARON.org. Jerry, thank you very much for your time this week.
Hey, congratulations on 11 years, man. I expect 11 more.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to that next 11.
Amen.
This has been Trudge the Road.
You've been listening to Trudge the Road. If you missed a portion of the show or would like to hear past shows, just log on to YouTube and type Trudge the Road Radio in the search, and they'll pop right up. Thanks again for listening to Trudge the Road, heard on this great radio station, which is part of the Trudge the Road Radio Network.